Title: The Chilling Case of the Husband Who Thought No One Would Notice. True crime documentary. The calm before the poison. Before we begin, hit subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, because in a world where the truth hides in plain sight, you'll want to be here when the next case breaks. The death certificate would say cardiac arrest. The obituary would describe a beloved mother, wife, teacher, and church volunteer. The community would mourn a gentle woman taken too soon. But inside the quiet neighborhoods of Mount Holly, North Carolina, whispers were already forming. Not loud. Not accusatory. Just the kind that slip between closed doors and linger in rooms long after families have gone to bed. Something about Stacy's death didn't feel natural. To understand why, you have to know the woman everyone believed she was, and the marriage everyone thought she had. Stacy Robinson was the kind of person people trusted instantly. Warm, tall, athletic, the type of woman whose laughter filled a room and stayed there. She grew up surrounded by siblings, church gatherings, and softball practices. She worked as a preschool teacher, the kind who remembered every child's birthday, favorite snack, and biggest fear. Friends described her as gentle. Her family described her as sunshine. Her daughters described her as home. When she met Joshua Lee Hunsucker, he seemed like the perfect match. He was charismatic, confident, and assured in a way that looked like protection, not control. He played college football, carried himself like someone who knew things, and told everyone he planned on becoming someone important. When he became a flight paramedic, a hero job, people admired him even more. They were the couple others looked at and said they have it figured out. But behind their front door, the story was already shifting. It began quietly. Shortly after giving birth to their first daughter, Stacy started experiencing sudden episodes of dizziness, weakness, and an unsteady heartbeat. Sometimes her blood pressure dropped so low she could barely stand. Sometimes her pulse slowed to a dangerous crawl. Doctors searched for answers. None came. Then came the house fire, a blaze that took almost everything they owned. They grieved, rebuilt, and leaned on friends as donations and GoFundMe support poured in. But the medical emergencies continued. A second pregnancy. A second hospitalization. ICU stays. Monitors. Code blues. And finally, a pacemaker, at just 28 years old. Everyone told her how strong she was. How brave. How lucky she was to have Joshua, who always seemed to be there when things went wrong. But there was a pattern no one saw. Not yet. When Stacy died on September 23, 2018, the explanation was tragic but unsurprising. Her heart had simply failed. Joshua appeared calm, composed. Too composed, some would later say. He declined an autopsy, citing her prior medical history. He had her body cremated just 48 hours later. 2 days after that, he filed for $250,000 in life insurance claims. To neighbors, it was grief. To family, it was unsettling. To investigators, once they finally entered the picture, it was the first crack in the wall. But the moment that changed everything didn't come from police, doctors, or forensic analysts. It came from a mother. Stacy's mother sensed something was wrong, something deeper than tragedy, something calculated. And when she made one phone call, just one, to the North Carolina Department of Insurance, she unknowingly triggered a chain reaction that would open a crack in the perfect crime. Because unbeknownst to Joshua, one vial of Stacy's blood had survived the cremation, preserved, untouched, waiting. And what it revealed would turn a grieving husband into a murder suspect. The body that spoke after death. They say the dead can't speak, but sometimes they do. Not with words, no, but with what they leave behind. And in this case, what remained in Stacy's veins would become the key to unraveling everything Joshua tried to erase. After the funeral, Mount Holly returned to its slow rhythm. Church bells, school drop-offs, weekend softball games, neighbors waving across lawns. But inside the Robinson family home, nothing felt normal. Stacy's mother, Susie, didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Not after the cremation. Not after seeing Joshua's face, dry, cold, not even puffy from a single tear. Something had been off from the moment he told her Stacy had just slipped away. He had said it like a weather update. Simple. Unremarkable. Accepting. But grief leaves space for questions. And questions demand answers. The life insurance claim hit her like a freight train. Not one claim. Two. Filed almost immediately. Before Stacy's obituary was written. Before her daughters had time to ask why mommy wasn't coming home. Then came the girlfriend. Too soon. Too public. Too happy. And yet, when Susie voiced her suspicions, people hesitated. No one wants to believe a husband could do something like that. But Susie knew. She just didn't have proof. Not yet. 9 months later, a phone call changed everything. A representative from the North Carolina Department of Insurance returned Susie's report. They needed more details, financial records, timeline, medical history. They treated it like fraud, not murder. But fraud investigations dig carefully, relentlessly. Every transaction, every discrepancy, every lie. And Joshua had left plenty. Interviews began. Friends, neighbors, co-workers, even the babysitter. Patterns emerged. And with each statement, every version of Joshua's story twisted a bit more out of shape. But none of it would matter, none of it would stick, without evidence of poisoning. And Stacy had been cremated. There was nothing left to test. Nothing, except for one thing almost everyone had forgotten about. LifeShare donor services. Stacy had registered as an organ donor. And standard donor protocol required one preserved blood vial. Stored, cataloged, untouched. The investigators secured a court order. The vial was transported to a lab. The initial toxicology panel came back clean. But the senior toxicologist, Dr. Demi Garvin, had seen a very similar case weeks earlier. A death in South Carolina. A husband poisoned with eye drops. Clear eyes, clear conscience, or so people thought. She ordered a secondary panel. A deeper scan. The kind used in suspected poisonings. That's when the results hit. Tetrahydrozoline. A vasoconstrictor found in over-the-counter red-eye reliever drops. Only this wasn't trace level. This was lethal. 30 to 40 times the amount expected if someone had accidentally swallowed some. You don't get that from a mistake. You get that from someone feeding it to you. Someone who knows how to calculate dosages. Someone trained in emergency medicine. Someone like a flight paramedic. When investigators questioned Joshua's colleagues, 2 of them recalled a chilling conversation. Just casual enough to seem like humor. Just specific enough to be remembered. If I ever killed someone, Joshua reportedly said, I'd use Visine. Stops the heart. Looks natural. No one checks for it. He had been joking. Except he wasn't. The investigators now had motive. Means. Method. Behavior. Was. Financial gain. And a specific poison linking every one of Stacy's unexplained medical crises to her final collapse. But they needed one more thing. Proof that the poison was administered by Joshua. And that proof, unexpectedly, came from someone who saw everything. Someone who had been in the home day after day. Someone Joshua assumed was too young, too unaware to notice. The babysitter. And when she finally spoke, she said a sentence that stopped every investigator in the room. He never cried. Not once. He only smiled when he was with her. And the night Stacy died. I heard glasses clinking in the kitchen. She paused. Her voice trembling. And I saw him pouring something into her drink. The confession hidden in plain sight. The babysitter's testimony cracked everything open. She was only 17 at the time. Quiet. Respectful. The kind of girl people overlook. But overlooked people see things. They go unnoticed while noticing everything. She remembered the night clearly, not because she knew what was happening, but because of how wrong everything had felt. Stacy had been sick on and off for months. Dizzy spells. Nausea. Blurred vision. Visits to urgent care that never led to answers. Doctors blamed stress, diet, fatigue. She tried to keep going. She had 2 little girls to raise. A family to keep whole. But the night she died was different. She had tried to make dinner, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Joshua told her to sit down. Told the babysitter to take the girls upstairs. But one of them, a toddler, refused to go to sleep. So the babysitter carried her downstairs to get her favorite stuffed elephant. That's when she saw it. Joshua standing at the kitchen counter. A wine glass in one hand. A small grocery store bottle of eye drops in the other. The label partially peeled off. Cheap, unremarkable, familiar. The kind every home has tucked inside a drawer. He wasn't applying it to his eyes. He was pouring it. Carefully. Slowly. Measuring the drops. She didn't understand what she was seeing. Not then. But she remembered it. She remembered too much. The investigators brought her statement to the district attorney. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was murder. A warrant was issued. Detectives drove to the Robinson home to arrest Joshua. But they didn't find him there. He was already gone. He had traveled across state lines. Visiting his new girlfriend. The woman he had been seeing before Stacy died. The woman he moved in with 19 days after the funeral. He didn't expect anyone to come for him. He didn't think anyone would ever ask questions. He had forgotten the oldest truth in investigative history. The dead always tell a story. Aunt Stacy's story was now speaking louder than he ever could. When they brought him in, Joshua didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't deny. He simply performed. Calm, polite, cooperative, like he was helping clean up a mess someone else made. But the interrogation room has a way of stripping people down. The lead detective pushed a single sheet of paper across the table. The toxicology report. Stacy's blood vial. Can you explain this? Joshua stared at the page for a long time. Then he smiled. Not a smile of nerves. A smile of someone who believed, truly believed, that he was smarter than everyone in the room. You can't prove I gave it to her, he said. But he had forgotten something critical. Stacy had gone to the ER weeks before her death. Blood panels were drawn. Stored. Archive. The prosecutors obtained them. They tested those vials too. The poison levels increased over time. Someone had been dosing her. Repeatedly. Consistently. And the only person with access to her food, drinks, medication was Joshua. It was over. In court, Stacy's mother sat in the front row. Hands clasped so tightly that the knuckles went white. Her granddaughter sat beside her. Too young to understand everything, but old enough to know something terrible had happened. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. First-degree murder. Insurance fraud. Felony poisoning. Life sentence. No possibility of parole. Joshua didn't cry when the verdict was read. But Stacy's mother did. Not for him. For her daughter. For her granddaughters. For the life that was stolen drop by drop. For the voice Stacy found, after death, through evidence, persistence, memory, and love. But the final detail is the one that stays with people most. When detectives collected Stacy's personal belongings from the home, they found a journal tucked into her bedside drawer. The last entry, written just weeks before her death, read, "I don't feel safe, but I don't know how to leave." Her voice had been there all along. Not silent. Not gone. Just waiting for someone to listen.